Welcome to Moneyline with Nancy on African Independent Television. I am Nancy Naji. Today I have a special guest and we're going to be having a one-on-one exclusive interview with guess who? The Minister of Solid Minerals Development, Honorable Minister Henry Dele Alake. Honorable Minister, good to have you on the program.
Thank you for having me.
Let's get started, but let me start from this premise. You've been a reporter,
Sure.
an editor, a columnist. So, is it still okay to call you a journalist?
I am.
Okay, so you're a journalist as I am. Why did you toe this path? Why did you settle in this role? Because it's always a bit difficult.
This several times.
Yeah, but not to me and our audience.
However, it's a pertinent question. I was actually quite nonplussed when there was a public reaction, as it were, when my portfolio was announced during the cabinet, structure, when it was in place. The shocker was that, everybody had pigeonholed me into an information portfolio and all of that. And of course, they were not wrong, because as you reeled out my antecedents, professional track record and all that. However, there's one thing. The solid mineral sector in this country, from all available evidences and data, has the potential to become the next petroleum and cash cow of Nigeria. 2, the president, in his own wisdom, decided to put someone he places absolute trust in to deliver the goods, the results, and someone with a can-do spirit. And don't forget that at this level of policy conceptualization, execution, and monitoring, that's what leadership is all about. Once you have the passion for success, for achievement, for attaining your goals and objectives, you yourself, as a reporter, as a journalist, can be Minister of Health tomorrow. Because you have the technocrats under you. But you chart the course. You have a vision of what you want that sector to be. And in this instance, like the mineral sector in Nigeria, the vision of the president is to make it the cash cow of Nigeria. And that's my own vision as well. And so the president agreed and sent me there. Thirdly is the fact that we as journalists, we've always been pigeonholed in certain compartments. That, if you get into public office, it necessarily must be management of information and all of that, publicity, PR, media advisor and stuff. I've gone through the gamut of all of that. I've been Commissioner for Information and Strategy. In fact, the very first one of strategy in this country in 1999 to 2007. So I've done journalism, active journalism, I've done PR, I've gone through the crucibles of journalism, the electronic, the print, everything. So there is a desire to open a new vista and to prove to the world that the average astute journalist is a jack of all trades and master of all.
Okay, so Honorable Minister, let me just, as you're speaking, I remembered in 1979, former governor of Lagos State, Lateef Jakonde, in his inaugural speech in October 1979, did say that every conscientious journalist, despite being a reporter, an editor, or columnist, or whatever you are performing as a journalist, that when the need arises for governance, you have a duty to perform, and you are qualified to perform. Of course, Lateef Jakonde was also, a performer. Looking at what you said, is he a mentor to you? Bearing in mind, you're a Commissioner of Information and Strategy in Lagos. You've held different positions. Do you see him as someone perhaps mentors you in any way? Do you still think about someone like that?
Not that I saw him as a mentor. He really was a mentor
okay.
to me.
So I'm not
Because
wrong.
I started my journalism under him as a governor when he was governor in Lagos State. That's when I finished my youth service and started work. And my very first port of call was in Radio Lagos and LTV8. I was a pioneering foundation member of LTV8. And I remember vividly November 5, 1980, when we started LTV8. LTV8 then, as it was then called, I produced and presented the very first current affairs program of that station. And I was in the newsroom and I did all the things. So, and I worked closely with the governor as well, because I used to write news analysis on a daily basis on radio and TV. And any day he didn't hear my analysis on radio, he will call for the general manager of the station and ask where Dele Alake was. And the very first time he paid a physical visit to the station and saw me, I had a small cubicle then, I was head of current affairs, and I was writing an analysis. I would write for the whole week in one day, and of course I would off my shirt. So he came into the office, I was bare-chested, and he had a whisk, which was popular with him. So he laid the whisk on my table, and I looked up. I saw he was the governor. I got up and curtsied and said, "Oh, so you are this young." I was 23 or something.
That was 43 years ago.
Yes, so he said, you are this young, but the powerful analysis that we heard on radio, he thought I was much older and stuff. So we struck a rapport. And my father also was the deputy chairman of the Lagos State Education Committee, which met in his house every fortnight. But he didn't connect the dots until he saw me physically and started asking me questions. And at some point, when his press secretary was indisposed in Maiduguri, we had the night governors meeting then, the progressive governors meeting. He had to ask me to act as his press secretary, even that at a tender age. So I got that selective exposure at a very tender age to even management and the astuteness of journalism and the passion that drives achievements in journalism. And once you are an astute and intelligent journalist, there's no sphere of endeavor you cannot operate and excel.
Okay, taking it from that angle, are you still as excited as you were 100 days plus ago when the president appointed you as the Minister of Solid Minerals Development? Because you are now 100 plus days old. I guess you've seen the different challenges and all of that. Are you still as excited as then when you sought for the job? And let me put a second question to it. How has it really been for the ministry? And I need you to speak with me heart to heart in terms of the decoupling of the ministry. Because before you came in, steel development was part of the ministry. So how has it been in terms of detangling and decoupling of steel development? Because the president, in his own wisdom, has created a new ministry for steel development.
Yeah, the first part of your question is how excited am I today?
You've seen the wahala and all that now.
I can tell you that I'm even more excited today than when I took on the job, when I was assigned the portfolio. I'm more excited. And why is that? Because every day I see the potentialities of the sector in terms of its significant contribution to the GDP. And every day I open up new dimensions of strategies and tactics to achieve that objective. And things are really looking up. For instance, one of the fundamental things we did, which didn't happen before we got here, is to open up the sector to national and international focus and attention. And that attention has been riveted on this sector, that today everybody is shouting solid minerals, solid minerals. In fact, everybody now wants a mining license, they want to go into it. You know, that Nigerian hard mentality and all that. So that is on ground and is working. And of course, that has also generated the interest of investors, both local and foreign. And we need the big players in this sector to open it up and, put in the necessary investment, activate the sector so that the expected revenue can accrue to government. Now, the second part of your question is the detangling and decoupling of the ministry, which was hitherto steel, mines and steel and all that. I believe that there has been no problems at all. There's no, that is just administrative, when you talk of any envisaged conundrum in decoupling. There's none. Because the mines and steel are actually, quite complementary to each other. But because attention needs to be focused on the solid minerals aspect of it, that's why the demarcation came. So that more attention will be devoted, those things that are needed to ensure that we derive, that is, the country derives the expected revenue from that sector is done. Today, we have not exchanged any staff. Every staff had been operating as they were in the different departments. You had, like in the agencies under me, the NGSA, the survey agency, the SMDF, that's the funding agency. You had the MCO, the cadastral, that's the licensing, in charge of the licensing, mining cadastral office, and some of that. There are also agencies that are specifically related to steel. They are in the steel ministry. So there has really been no difficulties at all in terms of decoupling. The only thing that is happening as at now is that we share one permanent secretary. Yeah, and believe me, there's been no problem so far. The only thing is, maybe when I need the permanent secretary,
she's over with the steel minister.
However, the place runs. Yeah, without hitches at all. So there's no problem.
Now, let's talk about, in fact, I listened to you just after a few days when you came in, you were so excited, so optimistic, and, and I know the history of the mining sector in Nigeria. This is a sector that contributes a meager 0.3%. As at 2022, third quarter, contributed 0.3% to Nigeria's GDP. So it was like almost non-existent. But you have consistently maintained, and I want you to tell me if it is true or not, because you have consistently maintained an astronomical leap. And a Superman, when I heard you speak, I was like, Honorable Mr. Dele Alake is having a Superman mentality in terms of revolutionizing the sector from a 0.3% contribution to GDP to 50%. And where I'm seated as an economic analyst and finance, this is what I do on a daily basis. I look at it and I said, even from the numbers, they did not seem quite feasible to me. So please take this opportunity and explain how that 50% leap is visible. I spoke to a few people. In fact, when you made that statement, I had to get a few experts on the show from PwC, KPMG. They joined me, and they were like, no, we'll need to know what your plans are. I know PwC has come to see you, but talk to Nigerians how that is visible. Because in terms of the numbers, it's really...
because to you and, quite a number of people and interests, it could seem impossible or extremely, unattainable. But I tell you, because you don't dream big, you don't embark on bold endeavors.
Minister, that sector is very capital intensive.
I maintain you don't dream big.
Okay, so explain.
You don't embark on bold endeavors. If we did not dream big and embark on bold endeavors under the leadership of our current president, Lagos State will not be the 5th largest economy in Africa today. I know how we took Lagos State in 1999. It was a meager, less than, what was it?
It was, less than about 1 billion IGR. Yes.
No, not IGR.
Okay, so okay, GDP. Okay, in terms of GDP of Lagos.
Yes,
Okay, yes.
yes. The IGR was 600 million. And
But now
that
it's about 650 billion.
that's it. Bold endeavors. At the time we were enunciating all those programs in Lagos, there were skeptics like you who felt
Minister,
that
I'm
it
not
was
a skeptic. I'm asking you how
no, you
visible
are a
it is.
skeptic
I am
because
asking a
you are
question.
assuming the role of the skeptics out
No,
there.
no,
You
I'm
are
not
speaking on their
assuming.
behalf. So you are speaking on their behalf. So I'm sending the message through you to them. That look, when you have this mentality of an achiever, nothing is
It's
impossible.
impossible.
Now, coming to brass tacks, when I mentioned that figure of 50% it should contribute to the GDP, and I told you when we started this program that the fundamental thing I did was to revert attention, national and local, to this sector. Did that happen before we assumed office here? It didn't, right? So therefore, laying that foundation has created a buzz and a renewed surge of interest into the sector. And the big players are showing interest to come in and play and operate.
Yeah.
Now, secondly, when you look at what is being taken out of this country in terms of mineral, that 50% is conservative. If we harness, plug the loopholes, stop the leakages, that 50% becomes minuscule. It becomes negligible and infinitesimal to the figure that we can achieve.
How many years do you want to use to achieve it? Because
That is the operative word. When I mentioned the figure, I didn't say in 12 months, did I?
Yes, you did not.
Fantastic.
No, but
So
for
it's,
every
it's a work in progress.
Now,
if I say that I'm going to increase the contribution of this sector to the GDP to 50%, right? And I'm beginning to lay the groundwork for it, and is manifesting in terms of positive results. It doesn't mean that tomorrow that 50% will happen.
But if you set a goal,
you must see the trajectory.
But if you set a goal, you're a strategist. If you set a goal, it must be smart. Smart, specific, measurable, realizable. There must be a timeline.
Of course, there is a timeline.
So I'm also looking at that in terms of, because I'm a numbers person, minister, and where we are 0.3% to GDP, if you're talking about 50%, I'm taking a look at how much the mining sector has contributed to the economy, which is just paltry millions of
Did you listen
billions
to
of
what I just said?
Yes, I do. I'm coming somewhere.
I said that if you know what is being taken
out. I understand what you're saying.
Minerals in this country, it will dwarf what you are having from the oil.
Now, where I'm going to.
So the simple thing you need to do is just plug the loopholes.
Okay.
Just seal up the leakages, and then the revenue
money starts coming
in, and it grows in leaps. It will grow in leaps and bounds.
Now, where I was going to, Honorable Minister, is President Tinubu has told us that he wants to deliver a $1 trillion economy. He was at the NES, Nigerian Economic Summit Group, in October. I happened to moderate a few sessions there, and he was there. I heard him clearly say that. How is your ministry going to plug into all of that? Because when you said that, and when I heard President Tinubu in the hall, I tried to connect the dots from every ministry. There was a cabinet retreat. You were there with other ministers. So I assume too that you also have your own file of how to say, I will contribute to achieving a $1 trillion of Mr. President. And Nigeria is operating on the $450 billion economy now conservatively.
What was the time frame he put?
Not immediately. He gave us a few years.
Exactly.
So what is your role there? So can you give me a timeline?
I gave you a figure of 50% contribution to the GDP. The president came out to tell you that he's going to increase the GDP to $1 trillion. Right?
Yeah.
So, and he didn't give you a time frame, but it's work in progress. So, my contribution to that is work in progress, but remains 50%.
Okay. Let's talk about your plan. The transformation, solid minerals transformation
7-point
agenda. As we were coming in to your office today, up the stairs, we were climbing up the stairs, and I saw the vision and the mission of your ministry. So what came to my mind was that, okay, you have a transformation plan for the sector. Did you derive that transformation plan from the vision? Because I actually also saw transformation in the vision. So speak to me about your 7-point agenda. Some of it, of course, the Solid Minerals Corporation, the Mining Police, the Surveillance Task Force, illegal miners, and all of that. So, can you distill a few of that for me?
Again, I have said this, almost shouting myself hoarse on it. You have reeled those things out, the points. The illegal mining, for instance, which is a sore point in the sector. If you recall, I did give an ultimatum to illegal miners that they should form themselves into cooperatives, because we're not really interested in sanctioning. There has to be other ways of ramping up all these illegal activities. So I gave the 30-day, which was extended, because of their interests. Now, there was an operative word there. I said they should form themselves into cooperatives and formalize themselves. Now, that is salutary in certain respects. One, it removes them from that illegal, captioning.
To make them formal.
To make them formal. When they become formal, it's a win-win for them and for government.
Okay.
Once they are in a formalized structure, they become a bankable entity. They can then expand their business, expand the scope, practice or operate legitimately rather than illegitimately, afraid of apprehension, and all of that will be removed, the psychological apprehension and stuff. Two, when they are formalized in structures like that, the revenue that was lost to government becomes easier to extract from recognizable formalized structures. And you know what? It's working like magic. Since I made that announcement, and now tens, more than 50 cooperatives have been formed by these illegal miners, and it's continuing on a daily basis. So that will remove a lot of these illegal activities. Don't forget, when the big players also come, it is these artisanals and these so-called illegal miners that will be employed into a formalized structure and industrial scale operation. And I also made another announcement that we will no longer license operators without plans for local value addition, which means do some processing, activity, or produce batteries or whatever it is that your mineral can produce in the immediacy, increasing the local value of it. And in the process, you are employing, you are generating, employment. Exactly. So that also helps in removing or reducing substantially the insecurity associated with the mineral sector. And when, of course, that's apart from the real security architecture that we are rejigging, with a large measure of technology injected into it to differentiate it from the previous attempts at securing the mine sites. Now, when we are able to create all of this conducive and peaceful environment around the operations of the sector, activities increase. Economic increases, the multiplier effect is spread all over. And of course, when you calculate GDP, it's not necessarily in terms of the cash coming from the sector. The multiplier effects and the
total of economic activities.
It's all part of the GDP. Then the mine police, of course, that's the kinetic aspect of it. I did mention that there are several strategies. The peaceful one, That's, the formalization of all this, or legitimizing of the so-called illegal miners. And why are there so many army of the unemployed being recruited into banditry that fuels the insecurity around the mine site? Because there's no employment.
So how do you
in those
intend to go
areas.
with the mining police? Is
Mining
it
police is easy. Already I'm working with the ministers of defense. They were here. I think your station did
covered
carry.
it?
Yeah. The national security advisor. We are
So
together
is it that you
almost
will
every
have
day.
new
The IG
security
of
staff?
police is involved, the chief of army staff, the chief of air staff. I've met with all of them, and we have designed a new security outfit,
Okay.
which will be devoted mainly to the
Because
minerals.
why I ask is because currently the police is understaffed. So it's good that
Everybody
you're
is
making
understaffed.
you're
AIT
making
is also understaffed.
that.
So that is not
No,
that is
that
not a big deal.
some people may think, okay, whether the minister wants to go and
It
take
is
from
the
the existing
deployment, is the efficient deployment
deployment.
of
Okay.
what you have. Like I said, AIT is understaffed. If you are able to efficiently deploy your staff, that is then you achieve your goal. That's what we are doing at the national level.
Minister, you're just cracking me up in this interview, but 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 I think we should go ahead. Now, you've traveled with the president to different countries. You were at UNGA. I know you met with some Australians concerning training and all of that. I'm still cascading this within your transformation agenda.
Right.
Now, if you take a look at what is happening globally now, especially in the mining sector, companies such as BHP Billiton, Rio Tinto, Anglo American, Glencore, Goldfields, Barrick,
The big six.
many of them who are also operating in Africa. In South Africa, you know the countries. What has been the value addition since your trips with Mr. President? What has the interest been? When I came into this place, I saw some foreigners too, waiting for you. But what is the value addition in terms of foreign direct investment? Because I also know the sector is very capital intensive, and it takes a while for you to begin to get dividends. What are the foreigners telling you vis-a-vis the business environment of Nigeria?
Look, I did say at the onset that the attention that we've riveted on this sector in the last 3 months has generated local and foreign interest. The foreign interest includes those big six you mentioned. All of them are falling over themselves to come to Nigeria because we are marketing effectively the potentials that we have in terms of solid minerals. And we have something that is in global demand now, high global demand, that's lithium.
Lithium.
Because of the clamor for climate change globally, the trend is going to electric vehicles manufacturing. And lithium is one of the very critical, metals
Batteries.
exactly needed in the manufacture of electric vehicles, batteries, even your phone
Phones,
that
yeah.
you use, and so many other things. Wind turbines and quite a host of things that are in consonance with the energy transition to green energy. So if we have this in abundance, and you tell me that 50% seems contribution to GDP seems high, believe me, no. Now, the trips that we've had, either with Mr. President or myself and my team alone, has really contributed, tremendously to this interest that's generated. And I'm happy you saw, some of these foreigners. They come every day to make inquiries. Yes, they have concerns about our operating environment, insecurity, maybe governance structure, infrastructure, legal framework, and all of that. However, I tell you something. You did mention that, there are these big people, the big players are in
South Africa.
somewhere.
Yeah.
Where is more problematic security-wise than Congo? Are they not there? Are they not operating? So the level of insecurity in Nigeria is not enough to deter any serious big-time player. and I know what I'm talking about. They are more interested in what they want to get out of your place. It is the onus is on you to ensure that, or you also, while giving them the unfettered access to your minerals, you put in a governance structure that ensures that you are not shortchanged.
Exactly, I was coming to that, because what we have had in the past is that as we're blessed with mineral resources, we take them out in their primary states, and Nigeria doesn't get anything back. Take a look at crude oil. We just export, and we're even importing fuel. So what kind of model do you want to put together, or have a foundation? What kind of foundational model do you want to put together in terms of even the mineral resources being even processed? Nothing stops us from having foreign companies here that will employ Nigerians that would also process things that can be making funds here.
Even in the course of this interview,
Yeah.
I told you that I made the announcement that we will no longer be licensing companies that do not show us plans.
Yes. Except for value addition.
That is the way to go.
How are they taking it? How are they taking that?
They are very much interested. Because I also tell you why they are so much interested, even in our local value addition. Comparatively, our labor is cheap here than what they would do in their own countries, in the developed societies. So they have access to cheap labor. The cost of production and of operation, comparatively, is cheaper for them here.
Okay. So I think we should go ahead now and take a look at the nature of the sector in terms of mineral resources and where they are domiciled. They are domiciled in states. And we know that solid minerals too, states have a very big role to play. How are you engaging with state governors?
Thank you very much for that.
And perhaps laws. Let's take a look at, are there some laws that will enable you and your ministry do better?
Now, fundamentally, and I've had meetings with the governors on this, we all know what the Constitution says.
Yeah.
All minerals, whether liquids or solid, belongs in the exclusive legislative list, which is the purview of the federal government. So no state has any authority to make policy pronouncements on solid minerals. None whatsoever, according to the dictates of the Constitution. I didn't write it, you didn't write it. However, that is the ground norm guiding the regulations in the country. And until it is amended, whoever veers off is creating an infraction on the Constitution. So I've made that very clear. However, because of the peculiarities associated with the solid minerals and the needs for us to create an enabling environment for successful operations, and also learning from experience in the oil sector, where we need to reduce tension as much as possible, we have designed what we call a CDA, that's Community Development Agreement, between operators and the host communities. Because we found out that if you are able to carry your host community along properly and proficiently, and you have their buy-in, there will be less tension, there will be less friction, and you have an unfettered access to your operating site. And of course, you'll be able to maximize your gains. And when that is done, the operator does not only maximize his or her gain, the host community also benefits. There's beneficiation, local beneficiation, in terms of so many CSR activities, provisions of amenities and basic infrastructural development and all that, including employment generation in those areas. Now, we have designed all of that. That's the governance structure that we're putting in place to ensure that we have less friction among the various levels of authorities, like the local government, the state government, and the federal government, while not losing sight of that fundamentals of the Constitution, that it is the federal government that makes laws derivable from the Constitution on the operation of policy conceptualization on minerals, and especially solid minerals. So we have put in place this governance structure that ensures that the Constitution is followed to the letter, while we are taking the interests of the local communities, the states, the local and the host communities into consideration, just to ensure that we have a peaceful and secure environment for operations.
Now, you talked also in your transformation plan is the big data on 7 priority minerals. You have gold, you have limestone, coal, iron ore, bitumen, barite, lead, zinc, and perhaps you actually also said other minerals that will feature in subsequent investigations. Why priority on this? Because I also know that we have over 40.
About 44 that
yes,
have been
identified.
However, we prioritize based on international demand.
Okay.
Yeah, because yes, we have all these other minerals, and we still don't know how many yet, how many more that we have. That's why we are looking at further investment in exploration, because we believe that there's no state in this country without one form of mineral, that will be in demand or the other. So, but those 7, when you look at the figures in global markets, you see that those ones are very high. So that's why we said, okay, we are prioritizing this for now. As we discover more, minerals that are in global demand, then we keep increasing the list, of our priorities. But again, it is heartening to note that all our minerals are in demand. It's just that the rate of demand differs from one to the other. They are all in demand. The most seemingly elementary of minerals are in hot demand.
Why is coal? Okay.
I was told of a particular mineral that nobody has set eyes on, even though it's being explored here and there in elementary form. But there has been a sharp rise in demand for that particular mineral. I'm not going to mention that now so that you won't go into it.
I'm being torn now because I have 2 questions in one. But let me now ask part of this question, which is coal is on this 7 priority. Why is coal still there? Bearing in mind that we're still going for a greener future. I know that as Africans, we are saying that this climate deal is not fair to us, that the West have been industrialized. Let them allow us use our coal to industrialize. But why is coal still featuring on that? Bearing in mind that is,
But you've answered the question.
I'm
said that Africans are saying.
No, but I want to know what your rationale is. Why?
We need to survive, don't we? Now, I told some people in Dubai, some potential foreign investors at this last call, when the issue of coal came up in our bilateral talks.
Okay. You see, I wasn't there.
And I told them that before the energy transition, that energy transition is not going to happen today, tomorrow, nor next year. But we need to survive. And the fossil fuel, the hydrocarbons and all that, the oil that the whole world wants to shift away from, will still be used to finance this same energy transition. Before the energy transition, the green energy now comes on full stream. Something has to be used as a resource to fund even the transition itself. So what do we do? And when you talk of coal, tell me one of the developed societies today that are in the forefront of this energy transition to green energy that still does not use coal till tomorrow. Tell me one. All of them still use coal. If you must know, they still use coal. Even though the rhetorics is that, we must abandon all of this fossil fuel and all that. We agree with that in principle, because we also want to safeguard this planet Earth for our future generations. So we are in tandem with the clamor for this, transition to green energy. However, We must survive. Like our president said to one of them too, either at Hunger or somewhere, that what does he tell his grandmother in the village that uses firewood to cook? Until we are able to develop infrastructurally, economically, and technologically to get gas pipeline to that village to replace firewood. Won't that grandmother cook and survive with firewood? So how do you stop that kind of emission? Now, the clincher is this. What is the percentage of Africa's contribution to carbon emission? It's barely 3%. So now, if the people, the societies that contribute 97% to carbon emission are asking us to bear the brunt, it doesn't add up. It's not logical. So what we are saying is, why we will do our own bit in ensuring our cooperation with the rest of the world in energy transition, let the contribution be proportionate to our contribution to the carbon emission. So, yes, that's only fair. If we make only 3%,
and US and China are the biggest polluters.
Exactly.
And they are industrialized.
So let them contribute most in decarbonizing the environment, while we also catch up and industrialize.
You talked about a mineral which you earlier on, you said you didn't want to tell me so that I don't get into it.
Because I don't want you to leave journalism.
Perhaps I could follow your footsteps, who knows? But
I'm still in journalism.
Anyway, but you're not a journalist now.
I am. I'm reporting solid minerals.
You see where it's always difficult speaking to journalists, because you will just find a way around it. Honorable Minister, let's talk about the announcement on the revocation of 1,633 licenses. Yeah. Because of the default of payment of annual service fees. Speak to me about that, because that was also a shock, as it were. And what has happened since when you made that announcement?
Actually, I should also seize this opportunity to tell you that, as I announced when I made that disclosure of revocation, that it's an ongoing exercise.
Okay.
It's not a once and for all kind of exercise. I also discovered that, look, a lot of licenses have been given out, cluttering up a lot of space for serious operators. Now, if you own a license for a couple of years and you have not been discharging your civic obligations, it then shows that you don't need the license in the first instance. And it means that you are not a serious operator. Whereas there are serious operators out there. We are marketing our solid minerals all over the globe. And those people coming in to show interest, the big players, the medium players, and all that. If the space is already, clogged up, what are we going to give to them?
Did you engage with the licenses before you made the announcement? And
what has regulations guiding the process? And we went through the regulations to the letter. In fact, I will tell you, I got the approval of Mr. President to do the revocation over a month before I did it. In fact, much more than a month before I actually did it. Why? As I told Mr. President himself, I had to be meticulous in ensuring that every item on the regulations list was followed to the letter to reduce or avoid any litigations at the end of the exercise, and that's what's happened.
Have you had setbacks since then, or no pushback from?
There can't be pushback because I did my homework. I ensure that, look, part of the regulation is that you must give, number one, you have to intimate them. Fundamentally, when they are licensed, they have records with the MCO office. And once they are defaulting, they get an alert to warn them that, oh, look,
you're already in the red.
In default.
Yes.
go and discharge your obligation. Just like in today's Nigeria, when you register your vehicle, you get an alert when it's time for you to renew. It's the same mechanism that we used. Now, failing which, you are now given a 30-day ultimatum within which to regularize yourself. 30 days, the ultimatum includes the notice, which will be published in the Federal Government Gazette. All of these steps were taken. And at the expiration of the 30 days notice, I went on to do the revocation. So there is no pushback. There can't be any pushback. And as I said, it's an ongoing exercise. Another exercise is imminent.
It's imminent.
Yes.
There used to be a solid minerals development fund.
It's still there.
So speak to me about the updates on it and how that fund works.
Look, the essence of that fund is actually to encourage operators. One of the fundamental hitches in getting this sector, up and running had been funding, because you yourself said it is capital intensive. So for foreign investors, they have access to capital, abroad through all kinds of institutions. We don't have that many financial institutions back here in Africa or in Nigeria. And so that fund was created to bridge that gap, and it's been doing very well with it. And honestly, recently, it's been in consonance with the African Finance Corporation.
AFC.
Yeah, AFC. And one of the biggest local investors in our sector has been through the African Finance Corporation. That's the Dele Alake, managed by the Thor Group, which is a big player internationally. So our local SNDF and AFC, have been both instrumental in that. And there are other, local investors that are taking full advantage of that fund. So it's actually performing the role.
Okay. As we round up, Minister, because I can take you the whole day, so many questions, but I would like us to talk about gender role in mining. I know there are women in mining. I think 2 months ago, I supported, AIT also supported, my show supported.
I also supported the ministry.
Yes,
we had participants.
Exactly. So what do you think about gender-specific role? Because these women, especially, these are women that are into like pearls, emeralds. In fact, I spoke to them. The Miss Nigeria crown of this year was mined by women in mining. That's one. The second part is there a way really for SMEs in that sector? I know that is a capital intensive sector, but this is also one sector that we have so much potential. Can we see a growth of SMEs in that space?
Seriously, you can, because there's one of the first few activities I performed on resumption was the graduation of the Gemstones, school or institute, under the ministry, which is a sponsored, institute. Now, that to me is a very, 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 veritable avenue for SMEs, to move in. Now, having trained those who are in the art of making jewelries and stuff like that, I think the small, medium enterprises, agencies can move into that sector to capitalize those people, the graduates of such institutes, and even expand the scope. And don't forget, in this sector, there's a value chain. And so several sectors of the value chain can be potential SMEs. They can develop seriously. I do believe that. Now, the first part of your question was the role of women, gender sensitivity and all of that. And I do not want to limit, the female gender into the downstream of making juries and all of that. Because I see a lot of high-tech capacity in our women folk. There are women engineers in the sector. There are geologists. There are mining engineers. There are exploration engineers, extraction engineers. There are finance people. They spread all through the gamut of the processes of the mining sector. So I do not see any need for an affirmative action in mining for women because they are already there and they are capable and they have high capacity to perform, commensurable with any man anywhere. So I do not see any special issue there for women at all because they are already proving themselves, and acquitting themselves creditably.
Okay, there's usually a yearly big gathering in Canada and South Africa. Nigeria usually participates with big delegations without, value addition and bringing things back. Are you setting fresh criteria for such exercises under your leadership?
I already did that. One of the first few steps I took when I resumed here was to cut down on the excessive large delegations. That's not my style. That's not prudent anyway. So it doesn't go with the vision of this administration anyway. Forget the hula baloo and
I wanted to say that
over the COP,
COP
which was
28.
all a lie anyway. In fact, just yesterday or day before yesterday, the chief of staff and I were joking about it. His name was listed as, and he was never there. He wasn't there. So we joked about it. It's one of the in fact, social media is one of the disadvantages of social media. I'm an advocate of serious regulatory framework for social media. And I'm a journalist. I'm in the information profession.
But how can you regulate
It's very easy.
Media on cloud, and it has given people a way to vent.
Have the frame of mind and the courage to prosecute.
Now, Minister,
let me tell you,
okay.
Even in mainstream journalism, when I was editor, I used to tell people, the reading public, and those whose ox were God or oxen, there is this lethargy amongst our people from pursuing their rights legally. Some of them will claim, the law courts are too unwieldy, too winding the process and all that. But then, the media people, the unscrupulous section of the media, take full advantage of that. That, in any case, if you are libeled or you are defamed, chances are you won't take any action other than bemoan and groan to yourself. But if you take action, there are enough regulations and in the law books to get you assuaged and remedied. So one of the first things that our people should learn is to pursue their rights against these social media miscreants.
Okay, Honorable Minister, can we look at it this way? That perhaps why you have a lot of fake news in the social media space is also because that government information management system needs to be tighter.
What about private information management?
It's the same thing. It's the same thing we're talking about.
Managers don't also are proactive or what? No, it is the licentiousness of the practitioners. The fact that I'm proactive with my information, which is correct and all of that, does not stop you if you are a deliberately mischievous person from going out there, especially if you also believe that I'm not likely to pursue my rights. But if you know that chances are higher for me to pursue my rights, you think twice before you do practice such misdemeanors. That's the thing. It's not because government information management is not proactive. No. Whoever is mischievous is mischievous. But there are enough regulations to sanction or to remedy the situation, but our people must be willing to pursue their rights. That's my advice.
I think we should.
If you libel me, I sue you.
Minister, I don't know. But I think on that note, we should end this interview. Since the minister is saying that if I libel him, he will sue me. But that is why I think I'm here in your office today to hear from you.
Right.
I've seen, we've read, I see on television and all of that. But I needed to interrogate that information, and also bring the realization of all those things that you're saying, to be able to tell our viewers that. So thank you very much, Honorable Minister, for speaking with me.
I appreciate your gesture. Thank you very much for having me, for giving me the platform.
Opportunity. Thank you very much. A journalist to a journalist. So you can imagine. Minister made it so difficult for me today, but I think we try to do this today. Thank you very much.
Enjoyed it.
Thank you.
It's been a cross-fertilization of ideas.
Thank you.
Of minds.
Thank you.
And that's why we say great minds think alike.
Thank you very much. And I hope that whenever we call upon you again, you'd do this interview with us again.
Definitely.
At least in the nearest future.
Definitely.
Thank you very much. I wish you well.
Pleasure.
All right, and that's the much we can take on today's edition of the program. We have been speaking with